Hey, everybody. Good evening, or wherever you may be. Good day. We are rolling right along here at 8 o'clock. Ryan, today, a good show at 2 o'clock, giving away the Malik Monk jersey. Nice job there, buddy.
Thank you very much. It was a fun show. Congratulations to Mark, our winner, and everybody else that participated.
All right, let's get right to the 49ers. It looks like they're very close to getting Trent Williams done. I know that John Lynch spoke today, but this is obviously everyday news
Sure.
because we're now at Thursday, and opening night for the NFL is 2 weeks from tonight with Baltimore at Kansas City, and then you've got the Niners on a Monday night. So after this weekend, it's not early anymore, and then time becomes of the essence.
Yeah, I think that the pressure is starting to build not only from the fan base, but the media around here locally, Grant, trying to put a little bit of pressure on the executives. John Lynch on the updates between Trent Williams and Brandon Ayuk here.
Trent Williams, no updates there. Good communication with both the players and their representatives, but just haven't made any breakthroughs. And so we'll leave it at that and focus on the other 90 guys that are here and doing really great things on the field.
And then they pushed back a little bit, Grant, on the Brandon Ayuk situation and his back. And then John Lynch responded this way.
I'm not going to get in all the details. I think we're in a tenuous and time where everything that is said can be examined and all that. So we're just going to leave it at that. No updates and continue to work. I know fans are eagerly awaiting, and the season's right around the corner. I can tell everybody this. We feel the urgency to get all our players back. We're very excited about our team, and those are two guys that have been a big part of us, a huge part of our success. So we'd like to have them both back in.
So that's John. Grant, you think the deals get done in the next week?
Okay, well, let's go back a year ago and let's revisit Nick Bosa's holdout. And he came back the week of the first game. And quite frankly, I didn't think we saw the real Nick Bosa for a lot of last year.
It's a great point. It's a very good point. He came back late. It was I believe he signed the week of
the week of the first game.
Exactly
the week
right.
Of the week of the Pittsburgh game.
That's right. And there was question, should he play? Should you let him get used to things, bring him back week 2? It's a solid point. And then you wonder if some of these other situations around the league, like Creed Humphreys, for instance, the Kansas City center signs a 4-year, $72 million deal today. Does that affect anything with the negotiations with Trent Williams, and vice versa? CeeDee Lamb, who we talked about last night.
I do think CeeDee Lamb means more towards Brandon Ayuk than the former. But I would also say this. Teams do have a hard cap.
Sure.
There's only so much money to go around. You got Brock Purdy, all right, coming up. You've got, a lot of things that you, as a football team, have to prioritize when you have your total pie on the table. You've got to split it up into all these different sections, and you always have to have a piece left over for your quarterback. Okay, so
certainly,
I mean, there are franchise tags, and you can get around some of these things. But the bottom line is, CeeDee Lamb is probably waiting. Well, first of all, CeeDee Lamb is going to get paid more than Brandon Ayuk. Can we agree with that?
I would agree. Yes.
Okay. I don't know by how much, but I got to be objective about this. CeeDee Lamb deserves more money than Brandon Ayuk.
I think so. You look at his production, and he is a true number one receiver. The argument can be made: San Francisco, do they have one?
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are holding that against Ayuk because he plays with Deebo Samuel and he plays with George Kittle and a guy that comes out of the backfield like Christian McCaffrey, and
right.
Yeah, CeeDee Lamb doesn't really have those weapons around him like the 49ers. So therefore his production may be a little bit higher, but I'll try to go in a different road here. In my opinion, if you had 32 general managers in a conference room and they were starting to build their offense and it got to the wide receivers and you told all 32, okay, here are your choices at wide receiver. CeeDee Lamb or Brandon Ayuk, you can only take one. I believe all 32 would take CeeDee Lamb.
I don't disagree with that for a second. I mean, to be fair to Brandon Ayuk, I guess he hasn't had the chance to do it on his own. He's been around great talent, so you take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. You know, the one thing, Grant, that I think you could maybe hold a little bit against the Niners here, Trent Williams, maybe a little bit of a surprise, but this Ayuk situation, they've known about this since the draft. And the fact that it's dragged out this long with a year this important, I think it leaves a little bit of pie on the face of the 49ers.
And I would also add this. Your first game is against one of the top defenses in the NFL.
That's right. Great point.
All right. And if you go against that defense on a Monday night without Trent Williams, although I think they'll have him, but I mean, maybe he's not as effective, and without a not completely in rhythm Brandon Ayuk, that could cost you. I mean, the Jets, a lot of people are looking at the Jets as one of those teams this year, assuming that Aaron Rodgers is the Aaron Rodgers that we're used to of 2 years ago. You know, if that's the case, that's going to be a hell of a test for the Niners if they're not at full strength. And we still don't really know about Christian McCaffrey yet because, you know, your first injury report doesn't come out until week 1, the practice week on a Wednesday or a Thursday if you're playing on Monday night.
Yeah, very good point there. And with a calf, it leaves you with a little bit of pit in your stomach. And don't forget Aaron Rodgers, assuming that he's going to be healthy, nothing happens. He gets jaded when he plays the Niners. He has a little chip on his shoulder. They did not draft him, Napes.
He doesn't beat the Niners. I mean, he's had a terrible record, you know, against the 49ers. Cody says this spot on. He said Debo said he was not in football shape after his holdout ended. There's really, you can't duplicate football practice in your backyard or at the local high school field. You know, you just really can't.
Absolutely right, especially when you get into the dual scrimmages with the other teams. That's when they get some quality reps in. Quality.
Well, not only that, when you have pads on, it's a lot different than, you know, running around with your shorts and a T-shirt. That's why I don't like the combine in Indianapolis because, you know, I don't get impressed with guys that are running fast, you know, with their shorts or throwing a good ball without shoulder pads and a helmet on it. I don't pay attention to that stuff.
Yeah, I see your point there, but you can duplicate pads. If you're Brandon Ayuk training on your own, what you can't duplicate is NFL players across from you when you're running your routes, quarterback timing.
You can't duplicate someone chucking you at the line of scrimmage.
Exactly right. Getting jammed up in such footwork, all that. And to your point about week 1, usually when we see teams come out slow, at least the defense usually shows up a little bit more than the offense traditionally. So the Jets defense, very strong, as you said.
Now, I would also say that if Trent Williams and Brandon Ayuk are on the practice field beginning next week and have a full 2 weeks, I think that's enough to get them totally in rhythm for week 1.
Yeah, I don't disagree there. In fact, Larry Krueger talked to the 49ers offensive line coach, and he thought about 10 days was the time period he would like to see Trent Williams in camp.
All right, well, there you have it. We're all, you know, because 10 days is, you got to remember in the NFL, you only have 3 practices a week and then a walkthrough. All right. You don't practice on Monday and Tuesday. You practice when your first practice of the week is Wednesday. If it's on a Monday night, it's a Thursday. You'll practice Thursday, Friday, Saturday, walk through Sunday, and get ready for Monday.
That's exactly right. And in fact, Kyle Shanahan talked about the challenges of the coming weeks because you play Oakland and then you get a little bit of a break. And he is planning, Grant, to play his starters, believe it or not. Here's Kyle Shanahan on his theory behind that.
Well, I mean, especially like the last time us being able to have a game for, you know, really it's 3 weeks by the time you kick off, you know, and we're only allowed to have 1 padded practice next week, which makes that tough. You know, if we could have more padded practices next week, it wouldn't be as big of a deal. But they truly kind of do make it like a bye week last week. And the tough thing is with us playing on Sunday, you know, we're not going to ever practice anyone the day after a game. And, you know, then we get to hear Tuesday and Wednesday and to have any real padded practices these 2 days would have made it tough because then it would have been hard to play them in the game here on Friday. So we've kind of had to take it easy on them this week also just to be able to get them to there. And then next week kind of gets like that too. So to not get much out of this game, I think would be a risk, you know.
So hear it there.
Great point. I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. You know, I think fans don't understand 3 weeks is too much. It just is. 3 weeks of basic inactivity, meaning no live action, blah, blah, blah. That's too much in the NFL. It just is.
Especially when you never get 3 weeks off in a row during the season. You get a bye week. You get a long week if you play on a Thursday night. And You're ramping up, for the entire season. You can't agree. I think we can both agree, even in the preseason, you can't replicate the intensity of a regular season game, especially the first regular season game.
The other part of the week one, you made a very good point about, defenses, are they ahead of offenses? And I think that we know that they are, but you also see a lot of bad tackling in the first couple of weeks of the NFL season because you don't get a chance to practice it enough. And so you don't see good tackling in September. You just don't.
Yeah, very well said. And on top of that, the new rules that are into effect. You got the hip drop tackle. We talk about the kickoff, going to be more of like a spread out zone run play, but a lot of differences that the players have to adjust to week one.
Well, I think that the spotlight on Aaron Rodgers for the first Monday night game will even be greater than last year. And I don't know if that's possible because it was a Monday night game at home, first game as a Jet, and obviously 4 plays in, he was done. But this year, it might even be more due to the fact of who you're playing in San Francisco. I'm going to release my podcast next week, and I'm going to do my NFC and AFC previews coming up beginning next week. And I'm still not 100% buying in this year to the 49ers, even though when I look at their roster on paper, I'm like, okay, who's better than them? But I don't know. I just don't have a good feeling about them this year. I just don't.
Yeah, it's something I would say the offseason has not been exactly how they've wanted it, especially training camp. And then you go back to the fact, Grant, they've played a lot of football over the past couple years. So attrition.
So is Kansas City.
Well, yeah, so it's not an excuse. But the Niners, it just feels a little bit of a beat off. But who knows? Maybe that's a good thing. The last couple of years, things have been pretty much spot on.
I want to get back to what I said about buys and 3 weeks off. Look at how many number one seeds lose in the playoffs after a bye week. There is such a thing as momentum and, being a hot team. And we see wild card teams, go and win a Super Bowl. I mean, you and I both know that very well, being Seahawks and Giants fans. I mean, there is something to be said about continuity, especially at this juncture of the season, like Kyle Shanahan was saying. Be very interesting to see how he works the final preseason or the final week in practice and then getting ready for the first Monday night game.
Yep, it's a great point. Time will tell, and we are definitely looking forward to it. So we have somebody on hold, Napes, that has been up studying all night, waiting to give us his college football preview before you head to Sacktown. Let's bring in the man, Condog. Welcome to the show.
What's up, Condog?
Okay, so I had 21 potential teams that could make it.
Okay.
I have Memphis as the group of 5 with only a loss to Florida State. They will get that 12th spot. So
who will?
Memphis.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Memphis has a really good team. I think that Florida State game's gonna. I don't think they win it, but I think they show that they belong.
Okay.
All right.
Then it basically came down to a lot of 10-win teams at the end, but my top 12, I got Georgia, Ohio State as 1-loss champs. I have Utah and Clemson winning the Big 12 and ACC. Then I have Texas, Oregon, Florida State as runner-ups in their conferences. Notre Dame gets in at the 8th seed with only a loss to Florida State, in my opinion. Penn State gets in at the 9 with only a loss to Ohio State. Then I have LSU, Ole Miss, and Memphis rounding that out.
No Alabama, huh?
Wow.
I think Alabama's schedule is really tough this year. They have a very tough stretch, and I think
and they don't have Nick Saban.
They don't have Nick Saban either. Last year
but they got a really good quarterback in Milroe.
Yeah, the last year everyone said, this was one of Saban's best coaching jobs because the lack of, stars that, he usually had. And honestly, this Bama team doesn't have, a lot of those, Jerry Jeudy, Amari Cooper, Devonta Smith, Julio Jones guys. True. And Milroe's very good. He's one of the better quarterbacks Bama's had, but you got to have those guys when you're competing in the SEC.
So you don't have them in the college football playoff at all. You don't have them in the top 12, huh?
They're on the outside looking in. I have, I got Michigan outside looking in. I have Oklahoma outside looking in, Tennessee, Kansas and Kansas State, Arizona, very good, but outside looking in. And then in the end, I have the Final Four. I actually have Texas, Georgia, Oregon, Ohio State as the Final Fours, and then it being Ohio State, Georgia with Ohio State champs. I actually have a lot of rematches because I actually do think those are the 4 best teams.
And who do you have coming out of the Big 12 as the top team?
I have Utah.
Okay.
Cam Rising healthy. I think Utah's just a powerhouse. They give a lot of teams trouble.
Physical.
When they play them. They're very, they're Kyle Whittingham. They're a very physical team. It's hard to win at Utah. I believe Oregon last year was the first team to beat them at home in a long time, like a couple of years. And one of the last losses was a COVID year where there was no fans. So I think it was even longer with fans in the stand too. So yeah, very tough place to win at.
Okay.
Very interesting.
I think it's interesting. You're so high on Memphis, and I know a lot of people are. Because when you think Memphis, you think basketball. You don't think football.
True. That it's a basketball school, but sometimes a basketball school sneaks in. I think North Carolina was in the ACC title game a few years back.
That's right.
So a couple, Michigan State a couple years they were Big Ten representatives. A couple years back, there's always guys that sneak in. UCLA's had some good football years too, as well. Troy Aikman, even though they're a basketball school.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mac Brown's done an excellent job at North Carolina. Really good job with Drake May.
Mac Brown's great. Obviously, beating one of the best teams ever in USC with his Texas team and in that Rose Bowl, one of the best games you'll ever watch all time. I still remember being a 10-year-old watching that game.
So the national championships odds line up like this. Georgia is the favorite to win the title at plus 280, according to FanDuel. You've got Ohio State plus 400, Oregon plus 650, and Texas, even though they had 2 running backs go down for the season, at plus 850.
Yeah, so I think Texas is just really good at that line. They like, even last year, they just demolished Alabama's line. Like, their line is fantastic, and that's how you're going to win in the SEC. But I think the running back problem does catch up to them when they're playing Georgia in the SEC title and in the semifinal for the CFP. I think it just ends up just being not enough to get them by, but very good. Steve Sarkisian's done great at rebuilding the Longhorns. Obviously, he's had a lot of NIL help. It's a lot easier when Texas can start throwing money at everybody than building from scratch like back in the day.
Yep, a lot of booster help at Texas. They have a separate sport, beautiful brand new basketball arena that they just built. Incredible and state of the art.
Yeah, that's both the A&M and the Longhorns are like 2 of the top 10 like well-funded schools.
So, did you give any consideration to Boise State sneaking in?
I did. The Mountain West is that thing is really up for grabs, but I think they are going to roll Memphis if Memphis only has that Florida State loss. I think that's how the committee's going to run with it. So, and again, I almost I forgot about the group of 5 thing at first, because I was like, man, I have a lot of 10 win teams trying to get this 11 and 12, and then I was like, oh wait, I have to give the group of 5 the 12, and this is gonna be hard for the committee. I think there's gonna be a lot of teams with similar records near those 10 and 11 spots that they're gonna have to really just like dig into the strength of schedule, the strength of win, common opponent if they can. It's gonna again, I'm just debating with myself. This is a room of people.
Sure, no, absolutely. Last question, because this is one caught my attention too. You're down on the Irish. You don't think they sneak into the playoff?
No, I have them at 8.
Oh, you do have them at 8. I'm sorry, I missed that.
I think they escaped the A&M game, but I think they lose the Florida State game. But I think they come in as a 1 loss.
All right.
Yeah, I actually think they have a really good team this year, but I do have them making it to the quarterfinal, but I have them losing to Georgia in that.
I wonder what the odds would be if Condog hit all 12 of the playoff teams before the season start. If you nailed that one, man.
Well, if that's the case, then I'm moving to Vegas.
Yeah.
like
Oh, you're killing me. Well, I tell you, I really appreciate the work you did on this, and we are going to save this, so that we can go back and revisit this when the committee makes their selections.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
we're gonna say, hey, Condog, we don't mess around here. We save stuff, you know.
Oh yeah, I love that you guys do, because sometimes I go back on the past shows sometimes just to see if anything I've said has been correct.
Yeah.
Correct. You know,
Listen,
it's always good to archive stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
look at NFL films like that.
Yeah, we're not NFL films, but yes, I got you.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, it's so important. Like, there's so much stuff that we were able to get, which allowed them to create, like, a football life and America's game and stuff. Like, those are great, specials that they've had. And NFL films, having a lot of that archival footage is fantastic. Like, archiving is everything. Like, it's always important. This is also why libraries are important. There's so much stuff you can actually find there that you never thought of before. Like, that are like they have to stay funded. I don't care what anyone says. Like, the archive value is just too important over the monetary value.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right,
Condog.
Let's go. Week 0.
Week 0.
Awesome, man. Don't forget about Bennett's this weekend. I will be there. I'm looking forward to making my way to Northern California, and I've already got a couple of dates set up for Bennett's, the West Side Grill in Rockland, the location Roseville, which is Eureka Road and Lead Hill Road, and then Howe and Fair Oaks. You will always find great steaks and seafood, prime steak and seafood at Bennett's. It is awesome. Awesome. Really. It's incredible. And if you go to bennettsrestaurants.com, make a reservation and more. Don't forget about their weekend brunch, the happy hours. You know what, Ryno? My mouth's already starting to water just talking about it.
Yeah, Napes, I live closer than you do to Bennett's. I'm looking to see what time they close. You're starting to make me hungry, buddy.
Yeah.
But get out there. Huge thanks to Dorian, by the way. He made it out there and shared his story, Napes. So get out to bennettsrestaurants.com. Check out all the locations and specials.
And don't forget about New Works Plumbing for your plumbing needs and repairs. If you should be in need, keep New Works Plumbing in your mind. All right. SaxServicePlumbing.com, or you can call that number on your screen. They are available around the clock. New Works Plumbing, SaxServicePlumbing.com, New Works Plumbing. They've got a fix for you.
There he is, right on the spot. He had the chicken and the waffle fries. Now, was it the waffles or the waffle fries? I didn't know they had chicken and waffles now. Look at Dorian. Good job.
Wow.
Good job by Dorian.
Yes, Dorian. Thank you, buddy. Yes, appreciate that. And I will be having dinner one night with Brian Bennett, the outstanding restaurateur, next week. Looking forward to that. We just sit and laugh for a period of time. He is one funny individual, man.
Yeah, you got to be careful. You might crack a rib when you spend a couple hours.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's no question, and he's a great sports fan. Grew up in the Bay Area, and so he has all of his, the roots of the Bay Area teams, and he loves the Kings, and he's got, he's a big supporter of the Kings, and I love talking to him about, his childhood and, rooting for all those great teams in the Bay Area too.
No doubt. No doubt. A big Warriors guy. That was always fun, but he respects the Kings. He enjoys watching them play.
Chicken and ribs with waffle fries. There you have it.
There it is. That is what our YouTube consultant had. Remember how good that looked that day?
Yes.
Whew.
Yes. I do remember. Yeah.
Yeah. Some meals are worth getting messy for. That's one of them.
Well, I got to decide New York, my New York steak, my New York prime. You and me, we're going there on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be Monday with my umpire buddy, Brian, who you met.
Yes. Yeah.
Brunch on Sunday. Dinner with Brian one night. So, yeah, I mean, I got it covered. I will be at Bennett's almost every freaking day. Yes.
Yeah. They got to have the mushroom soup one of those days. You got to give Brian a quick text. Like, make sure it's there.
Yeah. So, anyway, what do you want to talk about? We have covered the 49ers. We thank Condog for his talk about college football as we get college football underway Saturday from Dublin. I was trying to do a little research on this, why the start of the college football season is in Dublin. This is the first time that Florida State's ever gone outside of the country to play a game, and the second time for Georgia Tech. And I'm just like, I don't, I'm so like, why? Why are you going to Dublin, Ireland?
Money, probably, number one. I mean, football is trying to become a global sport, American football as we know it. And you see the NFL going that way. You see the NBA, Adam Silver talking about possible international expansion. But to have, and it's hard to call them student athletes, but as of now, to have student athletes make that trip, that is a rough way to start the year, Grant.
I don't ever see international expansion teams. The travel makes it too difficult. Plus, you're going to have a lot of athletes that don't want to live in a foreign country to play their sport if they don't have to. That's just the reality. And I know that they've talked about Mexico City. I had it. I did a game in Mexico City. And I will just tell you, it was a phenomenal experience going to Mexico City. But I would also tell you that you're going to have a very difficult time getting players and coaches to go live in Mexico City. The traffic is beyond comprehension. All right. It makes the cities in Asia look like deserted towns. Okay.
Well, driving's a little different in Mexico too.
My God.
Yeah.
But I mean, the pollution in Mexico City is among the very worst, if not the worst in the world. All right.
Mm-hmm.
You're at high altitude. So every time you leave the country and come back, you got to get adjusted. There is also, I'm just going to call it the way it is, the fear of the crime in Mexico, which, again, I'm not saying that there's not crime in the United States, because Lord knows we certainly have it. But there are all these variables that, quite frankly, I think are going to make it very difficult. Now, geographically, you could easily do it. The travel from Mexico City would be a little worrisome, but it's not that much further than going to San Antonio. Okay. You know what I mean? Or going to play a game in the Southwest. All right. So you could do it, but you can't do Europe. There's just no way you can have a team in Europe. Can't do it.
Yeah, I really haven't thought out how they would make that happen, how they do the trips. You'd have to do conference realignment. It would be very difficult. But, Mexico City, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Mexico City.
Mexico City, to your point, yes, it would make the most sense. It's not all that different, geography wise to Canada, if you look at the different ways that you're going north and south. But then when you start going to different countries, you got to think about this, Grant. Not everybody can enter a country. If somebody has a criminal offense in their background, that could stop them from going.
Yeah.
And we've seen NBA players that are on work release for playing in the NBA and then back at prison that night.
Well, if you do get to Mexico and you want to come back, you just walk right across the border. So that's pretty easy to get back into the country.
Certainly. So that's a little bit easier.
But here's what I will say about Mexico City. Their arena is spectacular. Like, we walked into their arena and we were blown away. It is beautiful. Like, their arena is top shelf. All right.
What was it built for? A high-level basketball team there?
Yeah. And here's something else about Mexico. If you were to go to Mexico City, it would be similar to the Toronto Raptors, where you would have the whole country. So you're not just, think about this. If you have an NBA team in Mexico City, you don't just have fans from Mexico City, you have the whole country. So the economic gain is extremely attractive. And by the way, I know one of the potential owners of the Mexico City team. I'm good friends with him.
Uh-huh.
And they've been trying to get a team there for 10 years now. So they have, their pockets are deeper than deep. Okay. But it's just a matter of whether, see, I think that we would agree, correct, that Seattle is number 1 on the list.
Yes.
And now Vegas is probably number 2 on the list.
Yes.
So can you really add another team? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. What was and I assume the fan response was good when you guys went to Mexico. I know they had a game there where the game had to be canceled because of the smoke in the arena at one point.
Not when I was there.
Not when you were there. I think it was a separate trip. But do you think the fan base would be able to sustain an NBA team?
I don't know enough about the populace of Mexico City in terms of the economic structure.
Yeah.
And what they spend their entertainment dollar on. I'm not able to speak on that. I can't remember what the crowd was like for the game, although I think it was very good.
Yeah.
But listen, we know that soccer is the number 1 sport in Mexico, correct?
It is huge.
And they go crazy over soccer, and they're going to spend their money on soccer. I don't know what they would do for NBA. I can't answer that because I don't know.
Yeah, and that's something they would have to figure out. But I think Seattle, Vegas, if you had to put a timeline on what you think it's going to be till we see an expansion, where you
3 years.
3 years?
Yeah, Seattle will have a team within 3 years.
I sure hope so. Seattle deserves a team. They didn't
I
deserve our team, but they deserve a team.
No, absolutely. They did not deserve the Sacramento Kings. You were right about that. Hey, folks, don't forget about Sunrise Landing. If you are looking at possible relocation to beautiful Calusa, and it is beautiful, all right, you go to CalusaSunrise.com, and you can check out the various models. No Mellorews, no homeowners. You know, it's right across the street from the Calusa Golf and Country Club, so you've got that. Good access to I-5, Highway 45, Highway 20. It's Sunrise Landing, and this is a project from Blazona Development, the newest residential community in Calusa. Sunrise Landing. Just go to CalusaSunrise.com, and you'll get all the information you need at Sunrise Landing. You doing a show tomorrow afternoon, my friend?
Absolutely. Be here at 2:00, Royal Rumble Friday, wrapping up the week.
I will not be doing a show tomorrow night, as it's a travel day for me as I'm making my way back to NorCal. And I am very much looking forward to reuniting with everybody and being back in very familiar stomping grounds. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and we certainly hope that you have safe travels. It looks like the weather's going to be good. We've cooled down for you. We're taking care of you, buddy.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. I definitely... And I'm hoping I have good weather next week in Tuscaloosa for the Alabama game. You never know in that region of the country during the month of September and August because of all the tropical storms and hurricanes that come in through that region of the country and sometimes straight up the Gulf. Just, ask the folks of New Orleans.
Great point. It has been a wacky summer for those kinds of things, tornadoes, hurricanes, etc. So hopefully it is all good and safe. We welcome in Jay. Good evening.
What's going on, fellas? How you guys doing?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. I don't know why my green screen is messing up. Sorry about that.
No problem.
First things first about the realignment. I'm glad you guys brought that up. That's something that's always kind of interested me.
I need you to speak up a little bit.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but just a little more energy.
Oh, okay. No, yeah, you guys brought up the expansion. That really interests me. And, it's funny that you bring up Seattle because obviously they used to have the Supersonics. And I've been doing a little bit of research on the city itself, and it's a beautiful city. It really is. It gets a bad
not as beautiful as it used to be.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's pretty much the Bay Area.
For a lot of
it's San Francisco now.
Yeah, exactly. It's very.
I'm just telling you, Seattle was my favorite city in North America, along with Vancouver. My 2 favorite cities to go to. Used to love it. I used to look forward to. I wouldn't go to downtown Seattle now. If someone said you want to go to Seattle, I would say no, I don't want to go. If somebody said you want to go to downtown San Francisco, I would say no, I don't want to go. Seattle might be worse than San Francisco. But anyway, Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So you know, they get a bad rap with the weather too, you know, not a lot of sunlight or whatnot, but it is very, it resembles the Bay Area in a lot of ways.
It's a spectacular city, spectacular.
Yeah. So I think that city definitely, I mean, you got the Mariners, I believe it is out there, and you got the Seahawks, you know, go.
And you got UW, you got the Washington Huskies in Seattle.
Oh, yeah. They do.
Hey, you didn't do your research as good as you normally do. Your research, when I'm a teacher, I would normally grade your research as an A or an A plus. I'm now giving you an F for your research because you did not know that the University of Washington was in Seattle.
I knew that.
Right on the lake.
In fact, I knew that on Saturdays, instead of tailgating the games, they do sailgating.
Yes.
So they get on the boats out there, which I thought was great.
You just got up to a B. I went from an F to a B.
Oh,
see,
wow.
I'm a very lenient teacher, Ryan.
Yeah,
right, Ryno?
yeah.
Right?
You're pretty good when it comes to that. Jay, extra credit. Does Seattle have a WNBA team?
No.
They do. The Storm. Fourth
Seattle
in the
Seattle
Western
Storm.
Conference.
Well, okay. We love the WNBA, guys. I'm gonna start watching it. I promise. Maybe I don't know when, but we'll figure it out. But I think, to your point, Grant, you said Seattle's first. I think Vegas goes first. I think Vegas has shown that they can hold a major team like the Raiders. And it's the sports betting capital of the world. You know,
Vegas will not go in front of Seattle. It will either happen simultaneously or Seattle will go first.
You know what? I would agree with that statement more for sure. I think it would happen at the same time, especially when you're going to incorporate in this instance expansion draft. And that leads me to say, normally you get to keep 8 players on an NBA roster. What 8 players are you going to keep in that expansion draft with today's roster from the Sacramento Kings?
I don't know. That's a hypothetical because the roster is not going to look like this it's a moot point. But go ahead, Ryno.
I was going to say there's a lot of rules that go into that. Who's eligible to be kept and who's not, and reimbursement, et cetera, depending on players' contract.
Jay, I just can't answer that. Nobody could answer that question right now, even if you went by today's roster. It's just not. It's not.
Okay, fair enough.
Yep.
Understandable. I did also want to bring up, there's been rumor going around, and I know I'm probably late to this, but the Isaiah Thomas, you have Delanie Walker, and you have don't even know the other guy's name.
Juan Toscano Anderson.
Yeah. What are your guys' thoughts on that? I don't know if you guys talked about it earlier in the week.
This happens with every team for a period of 3 weeks or so, or 4 weeks leading up to training camp. It's very normal, and it's players that are just trying to get a training camp invite. That's what they're trying. They're trying to get an invite to training camp. That's what they're trying to do.
Okay.
But what do I think? I mean, there's a reason why they're not on a team right now.
That's very true.
Ryan, what do you think about this?
I think at best they would be offered a spot on the G League team. And that's how Isaiah Thomas got back in the league last year. He went to the G League. He played pretty well, went on a 10-day contract, then got signed for the rest of the season by Phoenix. So
rarely played.
Yes. Great point, Grant. Rarely played. So that's best case scenario for any of them.
Wow. You know, I really kind of like the addition of Delanie Walker, especially if we're looking at trading possibly a Kevin Huerter around the trade deadline. They both are similar 3-point shooting percentages with same capabilities on defense. They're both not the best defenders. So, you know, if you can replace Kevin Huerter for, you know, a cheaper pennies on the dollar contract, I don't see the risk in it, you know. But that's who I like out the bunch.
Okay. Fair enough. We'll see. You know, again, I don't know what Monty McNair and Coach Brown are thinking in terms of, adding to the roster. But if somebody comes in and blows them away on a workout, they give them a invite to training camp. That happens all the time.
Yeah, and you mentioned that all summer long. This roster is going to look completely different by game 1.
Yep.
So, yeah, awesome. Yeah.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you.
Good job, Jay.
Well, listen, buddy, you have a really good show tomorrow, and I will be doing my shows next week at 4:00 because I've got things going on in the evening every night. So next week, I'll be doing a show at 4. Ryan's got his show at 2, and then if he wants to join me, he's more than welcome. But just understand that I will not be doing shows at 8 o'clock next week because of my schedule. I'm going to move my shows to 4 o'clock.
Very good. We'll make sure we will be there to support. Maybe I'll join you for some, but I think I speak for everybody in the chat and everybody watching. Safe travels, Napes. We can't wait to have you back for a week.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Always looking forward to it. I can't wait to see friends and family and just people that I don't know that stop me and chat with me. I really enjoy that. So I'm looking forward to it. I will talk to you next week. Don't forget the King's Court coming up tomorrow with Ryan. And I hope you had a chance to partake in the jersey giveaway. Who won the autographed Malik Monk jersey again?
Mark Graves was our winner. Oh, Grant, it was brutal. Baki. So we did a wheel where everybody's name was on it, and the wheel goes tick, tick. It like does the Tiger Woods ball stop right there on the rim of the cup, and then it moves over to Mark from Baki. It was brutal. But Mark, loyal viewer, love that he won, and thank you to everybody who was there and participated. And a huge thanks to True Sports Cards and Collectibles for hooking up the Malik Monk autograph jersey.
Fantastic. And for everyone else, make it a good rest of your Thursday, and we'll talk to you real soon right here on If You Don't Like That.